sometimes in the session, they would actually break the pot and then it's actually putting it back together using gold. So it's actually about creating meaning and beauty out of your fractures. And the metaphor that I use with teams and individuals and everyone is really that no one is perfect.
And how do we then nurture our teams before we leave, while we're gone, and when we come back? Because there's going to be backlash when we come back as well. Because there's going to be an expectation of how a mother's going to show up and if she's breastfeeding and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot.
When you were forced to step away, they were able to do it, but it was because you actually, put the mindset and the learnings and things in place to allow them to do it. And that was quite amazing to see.
Heart to heart, be joy. True stepping into the Zoom. Big love, bold words. It's the elephant in the room.
Good day, beautiful people. It's another episode of The Elephant in the Room, Heart to Heart with Lee Joy. I'm so excited to be here with Yoke, a very good friend of mine and a colleague. And it's a cold day here, winter's day here in Joburg. I know we want this content to be evergreen, but I want you to know where we're at right now and what we're experiencing. Yoke, thank you so much for coming on today. I know we had to push out our last recording, but I'm very grateful that you could make some time to come and join us again today. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. Always lovely to chat to you, Lee.
Oh, thank you. Yoke, so what is the latest thing that's grabbed you? What is the latest thing that's really inspired you?
I've just been loving working with leaders and teams and really seeing that energy flow in the room. So for me, what has been really exciting is, your title of your podcast is The Elephant in the Room. It's sometimes addressing the things that's under the surface that no one wants to talk about. So very often, what I've been really passionate about is actually uncovering those fractures that teams have and, like playing games, pulling it out, gamification. And what you'll see, I'm very passionate about films. So you'll see I'll always be tying in full metaphors with my content. So today I was asked to quote for an event for men. And immediately I was like, should I use Elvis? Should I use Top Gun? Should I use Senna? So it's like finding the metaphors almost like in the movie. That's what grabs me. So I would say movies and storytelling and tying it into the work that I do.
Amazing. What's the latest movie that you watched that you really enjoyed?
Sure. I Can Only Imagine too. So I Can Only Imagine was about a father who was trying to break into the music industry. And then he actually wrote this Christian song, I Can Only Imagine. And then their career just took off. And then the second movie is actually the struggles that him and his wife and the kids had in terms of now they're touring, they're doing world tours all the time. And he doesn't have time to actually spend with his family. And then his son actually comes on the tour with him. And then you get a lot of heartache. There's a guy that's practically dying of cancer that is with them and like very deep messaging. But it just shows you sometimes when people get a lot of fame, doesn't make the road any easier. So there could be the financial support that comes in with a lot of work. But when you're away from your loved ones, that gives a lot of stress as well. So just bringing that perspective and also I think the backstories behind musicians and, songwriting and that. I quite love that.
Oh, I must go and watch that. I love that. I love that song. It's one of my favorites. I remember the day my brother sent it to me. And it was such a like, wow. I don't know, it personalized Jesus for me in a way that I hadn't quite experienced Jesus before, where like I'd never really imagined the day I die and go and stand in front of Jesus for the first time, and how that I get emotional if I think about it now, and it's such a mixture of feelings that I'm going to feel. Like, have I made you proud? Like, thank you so much for what you've done. Like, I'm so sorry that you needed to do what you did. I'm so
Yeah,
glad to
and
see you. Thank you for taking care of me. Thank you for taking care of the people that I love. Thank you for my purpose. Thank you for my life. Um, and
the
I look
reality
forward. Hey.
the reality is a lot of people have recently passed on, and
Mm,
I have friends that are in life-threatening illnesses, battling it
mm,
out. So it just makes you realize your mortality more and
mm,
more. That's where that kind of song will speak to you.
mm. Yeah, and I spoke to Dory Marino in my first interview, and she introduced me to the TED Talk by Jane Fonda called The Third Act. I'll put it in the show notes again because I think it's just such a powerful TED Talk. It's only 10 minutes long, but she talks about like the third act of our lives, like this, the last, like after 50. And yeah, I mean, I think you can experience your third act at 40. I think it's relevant. It doesn't matter what age you are, just to embrace life and not to think it's over yet. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. Before we came on the interview today, I said to you, I don't have a planned structure around interviewing and questions because I want to be intuitive and I want our conversation to flow and not be a structured thing. And I may in the future decide to make it a structured thing. It may be better to make it a structured thing, but for today, just want to see what comes up. And before we came on the line, I spoke to a client that was like really battling. And yet she had like this fighter spirit within her, and I can only put that down to Jesus, and I can only put that down to grace, where she had tried to commit a number of times, and survived every single one of them where like she really shouldn't have.
Sure.
And I can only imagine that Jesus just said, not yet. You've still got things to do. Um,
Mm.
so Kintsugi Queen, I love. And if I think of, would you mind explaining to people what Kintsugi is, like the art form of Kintsugi?
It's a Japanese art form where they take a broken pottery pot, or sometimes in the session, they would actually break the pot and then it's actually putting it back together using gold. So it's actually about creating meaning and beauty out of your fractures. And the metaphor that I use with teams and individuals and everyone is really that no one is perfect. And in your fractures and in your failures or those learnings actually lies your biggest growth. So sometimes actually seeing what's happening, and often what I've seen, Lee, is I would work with teams and sometimes they're not even aware that they are fractured.
Mm,
Sometimes it's very obvious. Sometimes there's
mm,
a lot of toxic trauma going on.
mm,
Sometimes people are like just chucking things under the carpet and completely disengaged, not even willing
mm,
to come to the party. So it's really about helping them to realign and see that together we are more. Together we can actually find our way again. Because often with teams, they don't even have to be toxic. I've seen people go on maternity leave, or in South Africa, people would move to the coast, or someone immigrates, and suddenly that team has that missing link.
mm,
So it doesn't even have to be a toxic environment to feel that you've lost the flow of the team, and especially when
mm,
it's a new leader, they actually have to
mm,
buy into that whole process and find their way again.
mm,
And recently, I don't know, I've seen companies make massive changes with zero change management, where the
mm,
teams actually end up feeling like, oh my goodness, is my job safe? What's going on? So they actually need healing. So a lot
mm,
of the work that
mm,
I've done has actually been around how do we learn to forgive each other? How do we
mm,
learn to let go of things that happened 2 years ago? Like it's crazy. How do we
mm.
learn to actually address the elephant in the room? How can
Yeah.
we talk about those things? And when you actually talk about it, it takes the sting out of it.
Mm.
Mm.
My dream is I have a vision of people. I want to do a branding, merchandising branding with the logo. Oh, you can't see the logo on the screen. You will see it
I know how it
in the
looks.
recording.
Yes.
Yeah, and I want people to recognize each. I see this picture. I don't know in a not a plain is the Afrikaans word, but like a courtyard, this big city courtyard. Courtyard's not the right word, but like a, what do you call it? Where people gather and there's a
Open
water.
plain.
Yeah, like a fountain.
Yes.
And I see people sitting on the edge of this fountain, and they're both wearing a elephant in the room merchandise, and they're sitting down. They don't know each other from a bar of soap, and they say, "So tell me, what is the elephant in the room in your life?" Where people can find each other and find connection and talk about the things that feel uncomfortable, and where you're talking about safety, obviously in a safe environment. But that's my dream, is that people talk more and more about the elephant in the room. What are the things that we don't want to say, but how do we say it kindly, lovingly, with truth and compassion? So I love that. The Kintsugi with the gold, taking the fractured, accepting that things are fractured, right? That things do get fractured. Life does get fractured, and teams can get fractured. And like you say, it's a small thing. It's not a small thing for the mother, but it's a small thing when a woman goes on maternity leave. And it's just, there's now a gap in the team. And that wasn't there before. So the way that the team used to move and be dynamic and get it to work done is suddenly not there anymore. And it's not, the frustration is felt like, sexist, like she's a woman, she should have rights, she's going on maternity leave. And like, I get that, but it's also understanding that there's a change in dynamic. And how do we take radical
Definitely.
responsibility for that? And how do we then nurture our teams before we leave, while we're gone, and when we come back? Because there's going to be backlash when we come back as well. Because there's going to be an expectation of how a mother's going to show up, and if she's breastfeeding and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot. I'm just using that as an example. And if I look at a woman that's, when I gave birth, my being was fractured, in the sense that suddenly I was a wife and a mother, and I'd never been a mother before, and I was only recently a wife. So these hats felt very new to me, and I lost myself completely. And that was so scary. And then I had postnatal depression. And then I was like, it's taken me years to kind of be agile in changing those hats. But it
Your
definitely felt
identity.
fractured at the beginning, definitely. And I got a bit emotional when you were talking about, being fractured, and the experiences of being fractured can be the healing and the gold, that we then build into our lives.
And I'm not sure if you've noticed this with your coaching clients, but perfectionism is a really big thing that I always have to work with my clients to understand that it's not a good thing, that they need to realize that by wanting to be perfect, they're actually setting themselves up for failure. So
Mm,
that is one of the things that I've seen a lot with individuals. It's like
mm,
that mindset of, I cannot be 10 out of 10 all the time in all areas of my life.
mm,
And I need to be okay with the lessons and falling down from time to time, because if you were a baby, you had to learn walking by falling
mm,
and getting up and walking
mm,
again. And as adults, we don't want to do that. We expect that we can just go from sitting down to running.
mm.
And it's that progress bar.
Yeah, I think also we've walked into from a from a sense of community 50, 60, 70 years ago, to a much more siloed, isolated existence. And so hyper independence becomes the
Yes.
driver for that perfectionism, because if I'm perfect, it means I don't need anyone else. And other people can't let me down. And, I can get it done. And, I'm the best person for the job. And, because we don't want to be replaceable. We don't, we want to mean something. And I think
But the
what you're
problem,
saying,
the problem, if I can add on to that, the problem with that independence as like being hyper focused on I need to be the best. Often, what I've found with leaders is in order to be a leader, you need to stop thinking that you are the best and stand back and allow the others
Mm,
to shine.
mm,
So sometimes it's the person wants to focus too much on themselves, but sometimes, like you're saying, maybe it's they're scared of losing their job, but they've never had the training or the coaching to wear the new hat to realize you're a teacher, you're a coach, you are not no longer playing the game. They are playing the game, and you're giving them the game plan, and you're
mm,
guiding from the outside, and it's a very different role to play. Sure.
mm, mm. Yeah, it takes courage to let go, right? And to trust our team, to trust our team that they and often we get the best work out of our team when we do let go, right? And we trust in their ability to do things. I remember one of my clients that I worked with. I asked him what makes a good leader, and the one thing he said was to talk last. And I thought that was
Oh,
so speak
lovely.
last. That was so cool. That he wants to hear all the opinions first before he formulates, or he may have formulated his already, but he wanted to give people opportunity to share where they were at first. And I loved
I
that.
love that. I
Um,
love that.
mm.
Sure. There was
So
this guy that, sorry, man.
go ahead.
There was this guy, you're talking about letting go. Last year, I was working with quite a few leaders, coaching them. And he said to me his goal was really to learn how to let go. And he was struggling with that. And we kept on working month after month on delegation, trusting a team, empowering them, training them, giving them processes, like all of these things. Okay. And then things happened. His mom passed away and he went through some serious health setbacks. So he had to have like operations on his heart. So he was literally off from work for about 2 months. And all the work that he'd put in place, the team were able to pick up and continue without him. And they just stepped into those leadership roles. And I was like, wow, when you were forced to step away, they were able to do it. But it was because you actually, put the mindset and the learnings and things in place to allow them to do it. And that was
Amazing.
quite amazing to see.
And empowering, right? I mean, I've been a leader in a variety of different settings. Since I was a kid, I've been put into different leadership roles. I still wonder why, because I'm I'm such a rebel. And I've
It's because you're fun.
I was just like, but I guess also I'm happy to lead, I'm happy to put my hand up. I've got a servant leadership heart, so and I have a heart for community and family systems. And so I don't necessarily want to be the leader, but I'm happy to be the person that brings I'm the orchestra, I'm the conductor that brings all these voices together. That's like, I love doing that. But I realized in my one tenure as the Toastmasters president that that I had an idea of excellence and my team were amazing, but and they did amazing work, but I think that I was very hard on them, and it was a volunteering position for everybody, and I'm not so sure whether we had fun or not, and I think that's I mean, yeah. So as a leader, that's where I feel like I'm developing more of a light-hearted way of encouraging than to be so serious and like drive the. So if I think of the elephant in the room and myself as a leader, I am scared not to be taken seriously. So I become quite harsh. And I've learned that I need to actually lighten up and people will take me more seriously. And we'll have a whole lot
Yeah.
more fun.
Yeah. It's almost that I was having a session of someone earlier and talking about a performance development plan. And I was saying the ideas also come from Toastmasters, funny enough. I don't know if you remember evaluating speeches.
Mm.
You'll listen to someone and you'll think like, oh my goodness, everyone's scraping their chairs, no one is paying attention. And you have to force yourself as the evaluator to find something good to say, because the person and the audience won't cope with you just focusing on the negative. But what ends up happening in the work environment very often, if we get very anal and very strict, people just focus on what's wrong. So I was trying to encourage the guy to look at the psychology, which is what you are talking about as well. It's like, if you're focusing on bringing a positive spin to it, and you find, that whole sandwich technique, you find positives that the person's doing, and instead of nitpicking and saying you're doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, immediately you lose me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you hate me, we're all gonna die, we're all doomed, they want me out of the company. Versus if you find, I call it umbrella terms, it's kind of like if you can couple a few things together and find the patterns and then address those for coaching and training and support, then it's much more manageable. And even if you're not addressing everything, but you're like, what are the 3 most important things that will right now make the biggest difference? And then the following week, you focus on others, but you're not overwhelming a person. So I guess it's very much the psychology is, if we see very strict leaders, we hear doomsday music and we want to run away, and we think our career or our job, even in the voluntary position, you're like, they're going to fire me. But accountability is important. So I used to be an area director, so I used to coach the presidents, and I know how many goals there are. And, the timelines, it is actually quite hectic what is required of every club to get on a certain level. So there is definitely accountability, but you need to bring fun in there, or intentionally also have fun, like have that as a, how are we going to make this fun, so we're not just doing accountability conversation and checking the boxes, because otherwise everyone's going to hate you.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And they roll.
It's hard. It's hard. It's definitely not easy. There used to be a lot of infighting between people because it's voluntary. But I found, Lee, what I found to be quite amazing is, if you're a leader in a voluntary capacity, you have to learn to influence and get people to buy into the purpose and your core values, to want to follow you. Versus if you're in a company and you actually have institutional power where they have to. So with leaders, you actually, if you're in a position, you still need to get people to like you as well. It's kind of like both,
Yeah. It's a vision, but it's a vision and the personality, I've loved chatting with you, Yoke. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for what you bring to this world. I know that you're very passionate about helping people heal. Your NLP skills that you have, and you've been amazing in the speaking industry, traveling around the world, speaking to different people, sales teams, and I appreciate you coming on the show today, and you've always been a great supporter, and I feel that support, and I appreciate you.
It's a big pleasure, and I hope that there's some tools or some ideas that someone can use to either heal themselves or lead others better. Thank you so much, Lee.
Amazing. Listeners, watchers, viewers, thank you for joining us today. I'll be sure to put Yoke's details in the show notes, where you can get hold of her, and where you have a team that's fractured, or teams that are shifting in, like where there's change and you're needing a different way of being and doing, and you're not sure how to do that. Yoke is for sure your lady. Thank you for listening in and watching. We have in the show notes a link to our membership site, so feel free to go and have a look and see where you fit in our members. We'd love to have you join our community. And thank you for the support of our podcast. It's been such an incredible journey to be here for you, to bring these beautiful voices and different people that have put their hand up and said, yes, me too. We want to be involved. So again, Yoke, thank you for joining us, and have a beautiful day, everyone. Bye.
Real talk. There's an elephant in the room. Heart to heart with Lead Joy, saying what we're scared to say. Oh yeah. Laugh a little, cry a little, but we're going there today. Heart to heart with Lead Joy, true stepping into the Zoom. Big love, bold words. It's the elephant in